Howdy everyone, my name is FoxRox, and welcome to the submission video for New Year, New PB. This is Sonic CD Restored. For a little bit about what this game is, Sonic CD Restored is a fan restoration of a lot of the content from the original 1993 release of Sonic CD and bringing it forward into the modern 2011 re-release. That includes a lot of quality of life features, um, level changes, restoring mini speedrun and other tricks, and making the game as accurate to its original representation as possible. It also includes a lot of other improvements, such as custom soundtracks, new characters, and new modes for you to play in to enjoy all of the many stages that Sonic CD has to offer. For this submission, we are submitting the Beat the Game category in a 10-person race format. This game has been out for about 2.5 years, and we have grown a small but tight-knit community of runners who run this game and who have poured a lot of life into it. And we have chosen some of those top runners to be in our race, in our showcase today. With that, I'm going to introduce a little bit about each of the runners and the characters that they play, and then we will go ahead and look at a full game run showcasing all of the characters that we are going to be bringing to New Year New PB and commentating over them to understand what makes them special. And so you'll get to see a little bit of everybody today. But if you would like to see the full runs for everyone who is going to be in this race, links to their videos will be in the description below. First up is Pimpluigi. Pimpluigi is the creator of Sonic CD Restored and will be playing Sonic. Next up is Drive-In. Drive-In is a trailblazer in the Tails category and will be playing Tails. Next up is myself, FoxRox. I was a trailblazer in the Amy category and have pushed Sonic CD Restored to be at more speedrunning events. I will be playing Amy. Next up is Frogger Pogger. While not as vocal as many of our other community members, Frogger has pushed the game in the IL categories. Frogger Pogger will be playing Sonic. Next up, it's Matsukari. Matsukari is a Brazilian streamer who has helped push the game to an international audience. Matsukari will be playing Tails. Next up is Saulo. Saulo is another Brazilian streamer who has helped push the game into an international audience and bring more people into the community. Saulo will be playing Sonic. Next up is Barry. Barry was the first person to break my long-standing hold on the Amy Beat the Game world record and has pushed what we can do with Amy as a character. Barry will be playing Amy. Next up is Melikira. Melikira is newer to the community, but has brought many people into the game and expanded what we do beyond just playing the speed game. Melikira will be playing Sonic. Next up is Nick Bush 24, also known as Nick. Nick is newer to the scene as well, but has shown great potential and has helped bring a new era and a new renaissance to the Amy category. Nick will be playing Amy. Finally is Magician, also known as Temporal Magician. Temporal Magician is also newer to the scene, but has made great strides in reviving the game alongside Melikira and Nick in both the Sonic and Amy categories. Magician will be playing Amy. And that's everyone. Now let's go ahead and look at the run. Because we have 10 runners, and thus over 3.5 hours worth of footage, I will be breaking up how we are showing off the run. Sonic CD consists of 7 zones, each containing 3 acts. For each zone, I will be showing off 1 Sonic runner, 1 Tails runner, and 1 Amy runner. And for each zone, I will be changing off which Sonic, Tails, and Amy runner I am using to make sure that everyone has ample screen time and so that I can choose the runner who showcases each zone the best. We're starting off here with Sonic Panic 1. Everyone's starting out with a trick called 3D Ramp Jump. which is where we kind of come off the ramp a little bit, and what it allows us to do is it allows us to stop our ascension early. Grab the speed shoes, and everyone has a little bit different way to tackle this level. Amy and Sonic use some Badnik bounces, and Tails just gets to fly over the stage. That is a common theme you will see with Tails, is that there are a lot of stages that Tails gets to fly over. Something to note is that much of the RTA time of this run is taken up by these score tallies trains. For the highest of level runners, around the 11 to 10 minute mark, they can take up just as, if not more time than the actual run itself. So we were starting off Palm Tree 2. Everyone has a very similar way to start this off, but once again, you're seeing a little bit different tech here of how everyone handles the stage. This is also just a stage that requires a lot of skill. The ideal version of this stage relies on some bounces and some frame-perfect tricks, which, you know, we're gonna go for because they don't lose too much time, but, you know, it's marathon, so it doesn't always happen that way. We also have some new tech that we'll hopefully be able to show off at a marathon for the first time in this stage. Starting off with Palm Tree 3, this is the boss act for this zone. It is a very quick boss act, like most of the boss acts. There are some exceptions where we will point out later in the run. The reason why this goes so quick is because this ball has no invincibility frame, so we're able to kill him in seconds. A trick you saw Tails just do, it allows us to break the stage if we manipulate the camera using some pauses. This is not a glitch, this is simply just a quirk with the camera. It's a little bit of time, not really. It's honestly just a swag strat that, when we can get it, is really cool for the audience. Now we are switching runners for Collision Chaos. Sonic has to stop for these spikes, whereas Amy and Tails get to do Spike Skip. This is another stage which Tails flies over the majority of, whereas Sonic and Amy have slightly different ways of handling it. Sonic has to do some bounce tech and some very precise spin dashes, while Amy gets to jump over the roofs, and it's a little bit easier of a route with Amy. That is actually a route that I personally discovered, so yeah, that is Collision Chaos 1. Collision Chaos 2! Everyone has to get up here on the ceiling for a Badnik bounce trick. We all have different ways of getting up on the ceiling, which is one of my favorite examples of the variations of the characters. Whereas the second half of the level is virtually the same. Tails does get to fly over it, while Sonic and Amy have to do some precise platforming over these roofs. Depending on how many roofs you land on at a row, we call this either a quad or a quint. Amy attempts to go over 5 roofs, while Sonic goes over 4. Finally, we are in Collision Chaos 3. We get to skip the boss for this one. Amy is able to do this for free and double jump over the ceiling, whereas Sonic and Tails have to do a precise, frame-perfect jump to get over. It can take a couple of retries, but it is decently consistent. And even if you mess up, you're only losing about a second before you are able to restart again, so even if we struggle a little bit, it's not that much of a time loss. Yes! And we have accounted for that in the estimate for this run. Switching runners once again for Tidal Tempest 1. This is a fun stage. We get to do some creative Badnik bounces here to get on top of the ceiling and intentionally fall through the ceiling to get a bad future sign and go to the bad future. The goal of this is really just to navigate over these platforms as quickly as we can. Sometimes that can be a struggle though. This is definitely a place where you can lose a little bit of time if you fall down, but we have backups in order to compensate for that. Fun fact, if you peel out in the water, it is slower than spin dashing in the water. So that's a fun fact that we take advantage of with all of the characters, not just Sonic.
Yes.
Title 2 is coming up here. Sonic and Amy are already starting it. This is an interesting stage, just because of the fact that with the newer updates, some characters play a little bit differently. We will not have any Knuckles runners at the event, but for those who want to play this game and play Knuckles, he has a little bit different of a routing. Whereas this is one of those stages where basically everyone takes the same route in terms of Sonic, Tails, and Amy. Go in the past, it's faster than staying in the present. We intentionally get hurt by that dragonfly, as you just saw from Tails, in order to, again, kind of manage our height vertically, which is something you'll see quite a bit, because the faster we can get back on the ground, the faster we can go back to going fast. And now we are in Title 3 with Tails and Amy. This is another boss act. Every character has a quick kill, but not every quick kill is super viable. Amy and Tails have pretty easy quick kill strats, whereas Sonic's is quite difficult, so Sonic does sometimes, if things go wrong, have to play the boss normally, unfortunately. That is probably the biggest time loss that can happen in a run. It wastes about a minute, but again, we have compensated for this in the estimate for this race. So yeah, Sonic is missed the trick, and so it's gonna have to play the boss normally. It is really unfortunate because the other characters have such easy quick kills using that invincibility box, but Sonic has to go for a really precise bubble strat, also known as bubble trick, in order to kill the boss as efficiently as possible. And that is Total Tempest. We are now switching runners once again for Quartz Quadrant. You'll be able to hear that the music is a little bit different here. That is a feature of Sonic CD Restored, so every runner has their own soundtrack that they get to customize, and so everyone kind of has their thing. This is a really fast stage. We go to the Bad Future. This is a fairly new tech, going to the Bad Future, using that invincibility. Really highlights the ways that we push this game to go as fast as we can. Yeah, Quartz Quadrant is one of those what we refer to as commentator skip kind of zones slash stages slash levels, because it goes by so fast, 20 seconds. It's hard to explain everything that's going on in 20 seconds. But we're going to get the pass sign once again, a pass sign in Quartz Quadrant 2. Kind of try to thread this needle, avoid these springs, because they can really slow you down, and go to the past to avoid some enemies and avoid some hazards. Now, sometimes Sonic will stay in the present, just because there's an alternative route where it's faster for Sonic to stay in the present, but that's kind of a runner preference thing of whether they stay in the present or go to the past. Amy can also do that Sonic route, it's just a little bit more difficult. So you've seen that here. So there's a lot of variation, there's a lot of different things that you'll see from different runners. And that's why I think this is such a great opportunity, because not only do you get to see the variations of characters and how they play this game, and Sonic CD Restored is a fairly short game, But you also get to see the runner variation, and in such a small community, that can be really just as interesting as seeing different characters. This is a fairly long boss fight. This is Quartz Quadrant 3. It is over a minute long. You can get sub-minute, but it is about a minute long. We're doing a strat here called skid strat, which is where instead of slowing down and stop holding right in order to avoid the bombs, we are tapping left and then jumping at a precise time in order to avoid the bomb shrapnels. So you get the skid sound effect, which is why this is called skid strat. This does work on all versions, so if you would like to try that one out for yourself, that is definitely a tech I really feel like is a really good try it at home kind of tech. And honestly, that's what we're here for. We love bringing new people to the community. It's a really easy game. It's a really accessible game. And so, that's why we kind of value that. Now, one of the toughest stages in the game, this is Wacky Workbench. If you're familiar with the original game, this was one of the most frustrating stages, not just because of the bouncy floors, but because it was filled with RNG. Restored has removed that RNG and made this 100% consistent, but it still has a pretty high skill floor for runners, and so it's just really fascinating to watch. Again, a lot can go wrong, but when things do go wrong, they don't cost too much time. We'll see some variation in routing here. Like you see, Sonic and Tails finish in the bad future. Amy doesn't always finish in the bad future. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. Just depends on the routing. We also just got a new route for Wacky Workbench 1, so it'll be really interesting. You know, that's another example of seeing runner variation and which route they'll choose. Wacky Workbench 2. This one is really, really fun. I love Wacky 2 because we have a trick here that we're setting up for that's called the Wonder or Walking Mega Boing, depending on the character. You see Tails and Sonic do the Wonder Mega Boing, while Amy does the Walking Mega Boing. And the reason that we call them different things is because they have slightly different setups. So that's always fun. Looks like everybody got the Boing Boing. It is just a really fun trick, really silly name. It looks really cool, it's really flashy for what it is. So I really like it. It's really fun and it just, you know, shows some of the fun that we have in this game. That trick was discovered in CD11 by Sonic Star, who's a fellow speedrunner. Now we are in Wacky 3. This is a little bit of an annoying stage simply for its length, and because getting to the boss efficiently is way more difficult than it honestly should be. So Tails has quite a difficult strat for this, actually. You'll see him flying up on the blocks and not just riding the blocks. It saves him a good amount of time, but it's a pretty risky strategy. But again, really fun to watch. But Sonic and Amy have basically the same thing for Wacky 3, and it's just a little bit longer of a stage. This is one of those stages that is definitely read donations and have the host do things kind of stage, simply because it is over a minute long, and is one of the boss acts that is over a minute long. So sometimes it's just hard to fill the time. Sonic is able to, with a drop dash, outrun Eggman. We call that an egg, because of his animation, it looks like the egg peel out. That is what we joke that it's called. We have a lot of inside jokes and we have a lot of fun, and we will be explaining them as we commentate at the marathon. It's just, I will point them out here as well, simply for the sake of the run. Next up we're switching runners again for Stardust Speedway. Stardust Speedway is a really interesting zone. This is another commentator skip kind of zone, simply because there is so much going on, so many jumps, things are frame perfect. Lots of swag stats in here. Just a really, really fast stage. And, you know, the tech here is very much just jumping at the top of hills and jumping at the right time. So, on the surface, it's not super complicated, but the precision required is quite high. Next, we have Stardust Speedway 2. This is another really fast stage. We do something that you've seen a couple of times throughout the run, but this is a really good place to point it out. It's called a boost jump, where we will intentionally bunk our head into a ceiling in order to gain a boost of speed. Not super consistent, and it has in the sense that it has very niche uses, but where we do get to use it, it can cause some really cool things to happen, like being able to fully clear the gap here in Stardust 2 for all characters. Stardust Speedway 3, this is the infamous Metal Sonic race. This is a little bit of a technical explanation. Another one of those go to re-donations kind of stages. But from a gameplay's perspective, this is an auto-scroller, essentially. Dr. Eggman, with his insta-kill laser, is on a timer. The timer is quite long. It used to not be as forgiving in the 1993 original, but we have preserved the longer timer for the sake of accessibility. Metal Sonic is a rubber band, so while, you know, for speedrunners, it is the kind of thing that you have to know how to understand how Metal Sonic works, because if he boosts at the wrong time, you can't lose this race no matter how fast you go. So, as you'll see, Tails almost made that mistake and almost lost the race. And so, that is just something that has to be more calculated. I have never seen it happen, because there are ways that you can easily prevent it. So, you know, that is just one of those things, you know, that we have to consider. But, you know, again, we compensated for it just in case, but it is a very rare occurrence, just something that should be known. But yeah, really iconic stage, really fun. We love to just mess around while we're waiting for Eggman and do fun and silly tricks. So, again, one of those really, really fun stages. Finally, we have Metallic Madness. This is, again, a really technical stage. There are several routes you can take here. What is being used by Amy and Tails is what's called middle route, where we damage boost ourselves off of the spikes in order to land the middle route, whereas Sonic is doing top route, which is a little bit more difficult backup route. So it's good that we get to see both, since both could occur very easily, while basically every runner knows middle route, again, is not 100% consistent, so being able to see both middle and top route here is really nice. Now we have Metallic 2! Metallic 2 is really interesting because it requires a lot of really precise inputs. We all get on the ceiling. Yay! Kind of a throwback to Collision Chaos in that sense. Getting on the ceiling. Sonic and Tails have to do something called piston skip, where they use the pistons in order to gain enough height to go over the ceiling. Tails can fly over, it's just really slow, whereas Amy gets to do a double jump setup in order to get on the ceiling. We have just discovered some new tech where it called Vent Jump that is from Speedy 93, but I am not, we don't have that shown that off here because that has only recently been discovered as viable, so we don't have it here, but it may be used at the marathon. And Amy and Tails are finishing up Metallic 3 and going to the final boss, also known as Final Fever, also known as the D-Pad of Doom! Really fun name. This is an interesting fight because, while mechanically it's simple, we go for some pretty tough tricks. Some people will pause buffer, some people will YOLO them. you just saw both Amy and Tails YOLO what is called double hit, which is a trick that saves about 10 seconds by hitting Eggman at precise times to skip his cycle for his attack cycle between the first and second hit. We will also intentionally damage boost for timing for the third hit. And Amy and Tails are on the final hit here. We all kind of have our own way of how we end this fight. And so this is time when we hit the final boss, but Sonic CD Restored includes an inbuilt auto splitter. So if we see the way past cool screen, that means we got sub 15 minutes. And we also have the stat screen. It includes all of your splits, your childhood phone number, your social security code. But in reality, it's just a really nice feature for IGT, so we don't have to always use Life Split. And it is one of the mainstay features for Sonic CD Restored. Sonic is finishing up. That's time for Sonic. And that is Sonic CD Restored. Beat the game. Beating the game as fast as possible. Getting that bad ending, which is ironically the canonical ending. But yeah, that is the full game run. I hope you enjoyed watching it, and I hope we can be there at the marathon for New Year, New PB. I appreciate you considering us in a race. Once again, if you want to see the full-length runs for all of these runners, to make sure and check the links in the description of this video. I have included all 10 runners, both Twitch and YouTube links.